companies, and they would say, the people I'm calling on would say, gee, I didn't get a raise this year, it was a tough year. And then you'd read in the newspaper that the president gave himself a $2 million bonus. I mean, you know, it's become, unfortunately, a bigger problem today. And that's a major issue. That's going to be a political issue in this country for the next election, absolutely. So therein lies something. Yes, individualism is wonderful, and I preach individualism. But without controls, people will take advantage of it. Either government people will, or private people will, without certain legal restrictions from them doing so. There's such a thing as, you have to think of the group too. We're not communists in this country, but you have to think of the group welfare. The team, the group, the apartment, whatever, your neighbors, whatever it is, you have to take into consideration other people. We don't live alone. Okay, so if every economy raises the ship for everybody, that's wonderful. That's the way, that's in this country the way it's been. But it's not the way it seems to be going now. So there are some unintended consequences to this free will economic things that we have today. Now, before I go any further, because I've got a few more topics, does anybody here have anything to say about any of these topics that I've covered so far? Yes, sir.
You mentioned
Hezbollah.
But Hezbollah and why this war started with Israel.
Yes.
But Hezbollah never before sent over rockets to Israel.
Yes.
Never happened before, and that was a reason why Israel attacked.
I think the rockets came after the war started. They just.
Oh no, that was the excuse for Israel to go in.
Yeah.
They sent over rockets, and
Right.
Israel retaliated.
Yes.
So you made a mention of the fact that why did they go in all of a sudden? I
No,
think it was because
I didn't
of the rockets.
say I didn't say Israel went all of a sudden. I said that they did not. The Hezbollah, according to the leader of Hezbollah, a month after the conflict stopped, said, if I had known they would come after us with such strength and such vigor, I wouldn't have authorized the kidnapping of those two men. So that was an unintended, he didn't, I'm sure he lost, we don't know about it because it's all secret, they must have lost a lot of people, all right? And so, okay, they're used to losing people because in a way they don't care, but I'm sure they did because he wouldn't have made that statement. The fact is that it's complicated by Iran and Syria, as we know, so there's a lot of, but from the Israeli point of view, a lot of, the general lost his job that fought the war, okay, because he had the wrong plan. I mean, you cannot bomb, bombed the hell out of Lebanon, didn't he? And I don't think that helped the public relations of Israel around the world. For getting people here who might be sympathetic to Israel, including myself, I did not like to see them destroying the whole country with these bombs. It seemed less targeted than they were saying. It may have been targeted, but you know PR, public relations. The people, the Hezbollah, would take a bombed out building and say, look at all the people that were killed. Now, you don't know if it was true or not, right? But it was a bombed out building, and the Israelis did bomb it. The point is they gave the opposition the opening to do PR work, okay? They didn't go in and they didn't wipe out Hezbollah, which was their intention, wasn't it? We're going at doing it this way to wipe out Hezbollah. Did they wipe out Hezbollah?
Well, how should Israel have it?
I'm not commenting on how I would do it. I'm saying that they know more than I do. They knew how Hezbollah had infiltrated the government, right? And how they supported the schools and the hospitals. It was all Hezbollah money, which came from Iran, okay? But the fact is, Israeli intelligence knew that they had bought loyalty in great numbers, right? But they went in there, but they even bombed some Christian areas, okay? My point is, all right, that they miscalculated, and they stated it. I mean, I'm not telling you something you don't know. They said we mistook our strategy was wrong. And they fired the people, and Omer almost lost his job, and may still. The point is, unintended consequences. You do something in that extent, you should have some idea of what your objective is, and you should have some knowledge. It's not trial and error. For you and I, it's trial and error. For them, it should be beyond trial and error. These were gross problems. We blew it in Iraq. They blew it there. What can I tell you? So, I don't have an answer. Does anybody have an answer for this? I mean, I'm raising questions but what I'm trying to do is get you to at least think about the fact that much of what's done in the world is unintentional. But it is intended for something, and something else happens. I mean, we banned, what was it? We were spreading DDT over everything back 50 years ago to help kill the bugs so we could get more crops, right? But Rachel Carson came around and said, hey, you're killing us. You're killing the birds. You're killing the ecology. You're killing the things that we need to function. You know that 60% of the foodstuffs that we eat the germination process includes bees. If you killed all the bees in the world today, you wouldn't have food to eat. We ignored it. So here we were doing something good, right? Kill the bad bugs. Yeah. But you're killing other things too that are eating that poison along with the bad bugs, because birds eat and feed and thrive off of bugs, don't they? For the most part, seeds or bugs. So you spray this fruit with this chemical, the bird eats we were losing birds. And if you had lost bees, you'd really had a big problem. And yet people laughed at her, and they chided her for raising the issue of ecology. But yet it was anti-human, what we were doing. And we do that even now. One of my items here is using pharmaceuticals to excess, right? We give antibiotics to people doctors regularly give antibiotics to people that it will not help. It does not help viral infections, but yet they will automatically give people and call in and arbitrarily give it to anybody who asks for it. In the end, you're no longer protected from any of these bugs because you build antibodies against it, and it's counterproductive. So something good, unintended consequence, becomes bad. Okay, so there's another instance of it. Just this week, didn't we come up with some information about women hormone treatments? Right? A doctor, I remember years ago, told my wife, you've got to take it. My wife takes it. Everybody's taking it. She never took it. But what's the results now? The intention was what? It raises your health statistics. It fights off cancer, whatever it does. It reduces symptoms from right? From so many things, menopausal symptoms are lessened. So now they say, oh my God, don't take it, right? So this is years later. So where are now some of these may have been prevented. I don't know. I don't know what the pharmacy company's saying about it that have developed these drugs. But the point is, some of these things are totally unintentional. But much of it is because somebody failed to do a job. Or maybe overlooked a job, overlooked some information because of profit situation. That's another matter, okay? But there are some things that are totally unintentional and unanticipated. We're faced with it, we're surrounded by it. See, in the news today, I take the current news. Today, for the last 3 days, there have been government planes, state planes, all sorts of individuals, private, looking for 3 men on a mountain, Mount Hood in Oregon. Is that correct? Correct? For 3 days, that's all I've heard on television. The wife, the children, the father, everybody, the mother, right? Do you remember Katrina? They didn't have any government planes there. Here we have special equipment looking for 3 men who went up in the middle of winter on their own, went up to, who's paying for this? You and I are paying tens of millions of dollars for 3 men to go up. Now, you know, I have sympathy for them and their family, that's fine. But 3 men went in harm's way up to a mountain, and we have the government full force, looking for 3 men. Where in Katrina, they were crying and screaming and dying in the streets, and the government said, well, I don't know, is there something wrong down there? Okay? What's the intention here? I don't know. The unintended consequence of what I'm seeing is I'm angry. Okay? They're showing a human situation, right? And we have sympathy for these people, and that's the way we should, okay? But the unintended consequence is I'm angry because I know that they're doing it for these 3 men who put themselves in harm's way and didn't do it for thousands in Katrina. And the government chided. You remember the story where 3 Navy pilots were supposed to deliver water to the New Orleans area. On the way back to the base, they saw people in distress on the roofs, and they picked some of them up. And they were ready to be court-martialed because they didn't follow orders and come back to get more water. They saved people. And now you've got 3 people and 3 million people looking, and 300 million people getting agitated about these poor people. But I get agitated another way. The unintended consequences, I'm angry because they ignored people really dying that were in harm's way, not of their own choosing. So that's a big unintended consequence, okay? Does anybody want to comment on that? Yes. He's going to tell me I'm wrong. There are 3 white people. I don't know if that's the reason. Who's paying? I don't know. The government has to order it if the government planes are involved. Well, if it's state planes, the state. If it's the government, it's the government. I saw U.S. military special helicopters with special equipment. Only the United States government can order that. Yes.
Can you give us answers or try to solve these problems?
You want me to give you answers?
Make a suggestion.
All right. Use the power of the vote. You can revolt or vote. Which do you want to do? I'm giving you my opinion on the unintended consequence of this humane action, right? The unintended consequences is I'm angry. Because I know that we don't do it for some people, but we do it for these people. And they put themselves there. It wasn't something that they were inundated by a flood or a hurricane or an earthquake. And these people do it, they did it on a regular basis. They climbed all these mountains. I have sympathy for them and for their friends and relatives. But I find it that we're using resources that should have been and should be used for people that really get clobbered out of the blue. For no fault of they didn't put themselves in harm's way. Harm found them. That's my view. Okay? That to me is an unintended consequence. A human act that they're doing is getting me angry. And obviously, I guess, getting you people angry too. Because you know what the government didn't do for people who really needed it. So there we are. Picking a lighter topic. The internet, as you know. Yes, you have a question?
I was going to say that it's great to vote, but we really can't trust all our politicians any longer.
Well,
They're in
I don't
business
have
for politics.
excuse me, I don't have an answer for that because this is our system and we don't believe in assassination or poisoning like this guy, this Russian spy, or we're hoping that this guy, this senator from South Dakota lives so we don't have another crisis in the government, because that's what's going to happen if he becomes totally incapacitated. Okay. Turning to something, but the internet, as you know, Time Magazine made you the man of the, or woman of the year. Now, most of you probably don't use the internet, so you're not included. Whoever is here that uses the internet, you're the person of the year. How many people use the internet here? How many people don't use the internet? Well, you can leave the room. We haven't picked you. You're the losers. Sorry, you lost. Okay? But the fact is, the internet was originally designed for academia and then governments, and originally designed with the hope that it's an open door to open people's brains, open people's access to all sorts of information, and raise their abilities to understand and to learn. Unfortunately, there's some unintended consequences, because those of you that do have and do use the internet, you know you get 40 or 50 messages every day that you don't want. It's called spam, right? Is that correct? I get the garbage, right. You get all this garbage, which you have to then throw away. In addition, it has been a learning tool for terrorists and people who are looking to scam people, for getting spam, but find out about other people, steal from other people. It's an easy way, doing it intellectually in a way, but that's what the internet has blossomed for many, many people. It's easier to steal because of the internet. So the unintended consequence is terrorists communicate on a regular basis where they couldn't before. Now they can in a moment's notice. They can send a message around the world just like you can. You can communicate with friends, relatives, learn things, but they can too. So the forces of evil, which are always there, they have been enhanced tremendously by this ability of having the internet. So overall, however, most of us feel it is a power of good. But for those of you who don't use it, tough luck. Yes?
What you're talking about is progress.
Progress, yes.
Or change.
Change,
Or
yes.
growing.
Yes.
Or.
Progress is always fraught with
and
pitfalls.
It's not an exact science.
Yes,
And so we need to take risks.
yes,
And that's how we grow.
yes,
If we don't take risks, we don't grow.
Correct.
If you can go to hormone therapy, some of it has been good.
yes,
Internet has been good,
yes,
right?
yes,
Some of it, individualism, some of it has been good.
yes.
So
I'm not condemning all change. I'm
Yeah,
not condemning
just saying,
change.
So I think that, unfortunately.
Yes,
It's not an exact science.
Correct.
And it's not like 1 + 1 = 2.
does it?
And
Wait a
so-
minute, we have to think about that. Go ahead.
So, you don't want to stop research, progress,
No one's,
experimentation.
I'm not
You don't
advocating
wanna-
that.
so-
Correct. No, there's no advocation of that.
Okay.
I'm just saying that that in all human endeavor, there are unintended consequences. The objective should be in our technological state is to try to limit that as best we can. Well, obviously, you have to be positive. The point is that man is his own enemy, if you will. But the fact is that all I'm trying to really get across is that no matter what you do, or what governments do, or businesses do, or any professional group does, there's always something unanticipated that might happen. And maybe you should be alert to that, okay? That there's certain cynicism should be somehow in almost anything that you're told, because one day you're told that lettuce is good and lettuce is bad, and tomatoes are good, but they're really bad. And, carrots are good, but you shouldn't, right? So you should take it with a little grain of salt and a little of your own insight as to so that you don't have an unanticipated, unintended consequence. There's all different levels here. Yes, somebody has a question or a statement.
Most of your unintended consequences seem to be harmful. I can think of the discovery of penicillin, which is an unintended consequence.
Yes.
Leaving bread exposed. and a very favorable consequence.
Yes,
So unintended consequences can also be good.
yes, absolutely. Totally correct. Yes?
I think the topic is too complex.
Oh,
Nobody goes to war expecting to lose. We've had war from the beginning of time. Who can anticipate what the results of anything are going to be? That's what makes life so complex and fascinating. I agree thoroughly that there are mistakes made in every area of life. But I think the topic is too broad, and it affects everything we do, so that I think it doesn't address the problems of time from the beginning of time, because nobody really knows what's going to happen tomorrow, and nobody ever did. And the things we cook up are to help protect us, but they don't do such a good job.
all right. Thank you for your comments. Yes. This lady here, Florence?
Apropos to what was just said, a war like the Second World War, we were defending democracy, and we were defending our lands out in the Pacific, and of course our allies in Europe, et cetera, et cetera. But I think one of the things that you mentioned, which I've been upset about from day one, is that we did not do our homework when we went into Iraq.
That's what I've talked about.
Right, and that, I think that I had been with an organization that used to give lectures on the Middle East and, like lunch and learn type of thing. And 10 and 15 years ago, they were telling us how complicated that part of the world was and how much they just hate the Westerners. It wasn't necessarily...
So you knew it. The
Right.
government didn't know that.
Exactly, and Bush forgot to call me.
All right, so there you go. Okay. All right, the point is, let's say, there's all, the intended consequence of the Marshall Plan was to save Europe. And it was successful. So I'm not mentioning the intentions that did bear fruit, which this gentleman was talking about. I'm talking about the unintended consequences that did bear fruit that wasn't what people wanted to see as a result. Yes?
It seems to me that with the various progress and things that you describe, that these unintended consequences are increasing as technology increases, as our method of communicating between people, not just in our tribe and our little circle, but all over the world increases. It is now much, much, much more complicated when you do something that you may actually affect somebody way, way off. If for some reason you think that oranges are no good to eat, you're now affecting people in Florida who are growing oranges. Maybe thousands of years ago or millions of years ago, this wasn't a problem. You probably had very small groups of people. These small groups of people could only affect themselves. Yes. Their method of government amongst themselves was very
correct.
strict. So
Exactly correct, sir.
Yet their life was pretty tough.
Yeah.
So in spite of all these difficult things that you mentioned, the wars, medicines, the progress has to go on. And when we say the government didn't see it, who is the government? The government is us, the people. The government doesn't do things that the people don't want, because otherwise we wouldn't elect them.
Okay. Oh, okay.
So they have to do what they do.
I think you live in another world right here. No, Florence, please. The fact is, okay, that there are many things that have happened and will happen, and your thesis there, which I will take in a moment as my ending, is that the technological advancements of the world have made life more complex and have made more unanticipated consequences possible. And I'm going to end in a few minutes, and I want to go back to that point that you made. So I thank you for making that point. But to cover a few more items, okay, before I close, something as popular and not popular, unpopular in China, as an example, something away from us for a moment, something as unpopular as the one-child policy in China, very unpopular. They get criminalized almost for having more than one child. They have children being abandoned and adopted